Peace and blessings, family. Welcome to the first moment of the best of your life. Thank you for sacredly presencing with me. Today's subject is treasure of the equinox. Today is the day of autumn equinox for those of us who are here in the northern hemisphere. And autumn equinox is that point where the sun reaches 0 degrees of Libra. Also the point where the sun is crossing the celestial equator, moving from north to south. And there are some powerful significances around this autumn equinox. When we look at the actual definition, the word equinox comes from Latin, and it means equal night. And the equinox represents the point where the days and the nights are equal in length. So I had to ponder this definition of equal night because there was no reference of day. And the days and nights are equal when we experience both the autumn equinox as well as the spring equinox. And so when I look deeper into the resonance of night, I began to get insight around it being the sacred void, being the stillness, being the silence, being the womb. Like the womb is a nighttime place. It's a very dark domain. And we are born out of that darkness of the womb. And the 0 degrees of Libra is a representation of infinite possibilities. In the womb of our mind, in the womb of our soul, in the womb of creation lies infinite possibilities. And another one of the definitions of, or one of the things that is associated with the autumn equinox is the cornucopia, which is the horn of plenty, representing great abundance, representing the abundance, representing lavishness, representing prosperity, representing that which is plentiful and absolutely without limit. So we stand on the threshold of being able to access the cornucopia of infinite blessings. When the sun enters the sign of Libra, which is relationship oriented, opposite Libra is Aries. Aries and Libra come together to reveal one another to each other. A representation of the alchemical marriage of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. The divine feminine represented in Libra, the sign that is ruled by Venus. Venus is feminine. And the divine masculine is represented through Aries, which is ruled by the planet Mars. Mars masculine, Venus feminine. And so when we're in the resonance of the equinox, it is easy to feel the equality of things. I had a couple words that I coined out of this dance with equality. I coined the word equalitate, equalitative, and equalitarian. There is an empowerment when I can move in the resonance of the equalitarian, and I recognize the ways in which all things are equally connected to some facet of my internal being. This is the deep dive into the core of my selfhood for the recognition of how I am connected with all of the things that are around me. Infinite possibilities. In this autumn equinox, as the sun has come to 0 degrees of Libra, and it will be exact at 9:03 p.m. So I'm shooting this video in the morning, so we have some hours before we're in the actual exact focal point of that. But we are aligned with the same day of this reality. And so sun 0 degrees of Libra. One of the things that I found being very significant is that the planet Mercury, which is still retrograding, is 0 degrees and some minutes of Libra. And so there is a moving toward a conjunction as the sun moves further and further into the sign of Libra. It's kind of like, here we are, you know, here's Mercury and here's the sun, and they are moving toward being an exact conjunction. You know, they are like moving toward a head-on cohesion, a head-on cohesiveness of the joining of those energies. Now, Mercury has to do with the mind, has to do with contemplation, Venus having to do with relationship. So we are meant to contemplate more deeply what are our deliberate intentions relative to the relationship dance. One of the things that is so significant about the sign Libra, it is a representation of all my relations, of all your relations. And the relationship is the multifaceted, mirrored reflection of the internal vastness of selfhood. You know, this is so beautiful. So we contemplate through the Mercury connected to this autumn equinox of sun moving into 0 degrees of Libra. And then opposite the sun at 0 degrees of Libra is Jupiter. And Jupiter is 4 degrees or so, I'm approximating here, of Aries. Jupiter is retrograding. And so once again, here we have this energy where here's the sun is here, Jupiter's here, and they're opposing each other, but they're moving into this cohesiveness, you know, this head-on cohesion relative to the oppositional alignment. And Jupiter expands anything that it touches. And so this is about the expanded equality of self. I experienced the expanded quality or the expanded equality of myself by virtue of the dance that I'm having with all my relations. You know, all those that are a mirrored reflection of my own internal vastness. Another thing that is happening is Venus is 22 degrees of Virgo, and Neptune is 23 degrees of Pisces, Neptune being in its own sign, so it's very powerful. And it is retrograding, and so they also are moving toward this head-on cohesion, this cohesiveness that will be an exact opposition of the vibration of Venus and Neptune. Neptune represents, you know, the all-dimensionality. It represents the omnipresence. It represents that which is without boundaries. And so we are meant to contemplate through this autumn equinox the boundarylessness of the relationship dance. That when we are harmoniously aligned with relationships, when we equalitate in our relationships, then we are in the eternal expansion of the infinite possibilities of the blessedness of the dance of relationship, the alchemical marriage of the divine feminine and the divine masculine within. And Neptune is facilitating our looking into the deeper, unseen places of life. Everything that is hidden, everything that is vast, everything that is in the process of eternal expansion is represented by Neptune. And Neptune coming into this oppositional alignment with Venus of relationship. Venus in Virgo, Virgo being responsibility. And so we are in this place where we're meant to take responsibility for our dance in the domain of relationship. When we are in the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere, simultaneously in the southern hemisphere there is spring equinox. And this is something that I feel the Creator left here for us to tap into simultaneous realities. This lets us know that autumn equinox and spring equinox are happening simultaneously. Because in the southern hemisphere, spring equinox is happening. In the northern hemisphere, autumn equinox is happening. And they're happening in the chalice of the great now. Spring equinox in the southern hemisphere is now. Autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere is now. The commonality of both equinoxes is the chalice of the great now. And so this lets us experience the way in which past and future are simultaneous realities. Autumn equinox is the past of spring equinox, and spring equinox is the future of autumn equinox. And by virtue of them happening simultaneously via northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, we have this empowerment of giving our consciousness access into simultaneous realities. We've heard through some philosophers that there's no past and present, or no past and future, that everything is actually happening simultaneously. That the past and the future are happening simultaneously. And by virtue of the simultaneous resonance of autumn and spring equinox, we see that. Because it's happening simultaneously. The Creator could have set it up in a way where there was just one autumn equinox happening throughout the planet and one spring equinox happening, throughout the planet. But it's happening simultaneously, one in the northern hemisphere and the other in the southern. Simultaneous realities. The equinox equals the manifest creation of God's consciousness. Everything that we experience in the outwardness of life is born from the inwardness of consciousness. Stillness is that which gives birth to all motion. Silence is that which gives birth to all sound. And the invisible is that which gives birth to all things visible. And the equinox is a representation of stillness, silence, and the invisible. The sacred void, wherein lies infinite possibilities. And so it's a powerful time for us to align with what is it that we want to plant within consciousness that could come into the bearing of the fruit, the manifestation of our deliberate intentions. We want to be of the deliberate intention to create those things that we want. We want to equalitate and recognize that all things are of equal value. being as though the night and the day are equal in length. We are meant to see the equal value of the night and the day, the equal value of the light and the shadow, the equal value of the bliss and the pain. Of course, we prefer bliss over pain, and yet the pain sometimes becomes the catalyst by which we really up-level in our appreciation of the bliss. We are able to experience the bliss with a greater fullness by virtue of the pain that we experience in life. And so we want to equalitate our awareness of the pain and the bliss, and the recognition that pain is meant to be servant unto our expansion and the catalyst by which we come into an exalted appreciation of the bliss, of the peace, of the joy, of the gloriousness of our lives. We go into the deep dive to decipher all of the things that we can decipher about this frequency of equinox. We call forth the treasure of the equinox. Libra is a sign that is known for balance. B-A-L-A-N-C-E, be all and see. Balance is that which equalitates. Balance is an equalitarian. When I am balanced, I exclude nothing, but seamlessly include everything. Balance is the all-inclusiveness of life. The way in which all things fit together and become a complement unto each other. B-A-L-A-N-C-E, be all and see. The recognition of how the past and the future become married at the 0 point of the equinox. Even now, let us focus our awareness and our receptivity to receiving all of the knowledge that is, was, or ever will be that is associated with the equinox. The stillness, the invisibility, and the silence. We align with the silence, out of which all sound is born. We align with the stillness, out of which all motion is born. We align with the invisible, out of which all visible things are born. All things exist simultaneously. You know, the sun is on one side of the planet, rising and setting on the other side of the planet, and yet the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun is a representation of the great now. Both the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun fit in the chalice of the now, the holy grail of the now. Now is the holy grail. And we see it through different transmissions. For example, online, sometimes we get the replay of something where we were not in the moment of the live. And yet the replay is a focalization of the now. It is the chalice of that very same experience. No matter when it is that you receive this transmission, you are aligned with me in the great now. Now, the focalization of simultaneous realities. Blessed be the reality of the equinoxes, autumn and spring equinox, two facets of simultaneous realities. And all sound is born from the silence.